we left Potes on our way to Riano on a grey day where the mountain tops were in cloud. We didn't expect much visibility, as we made our way along the twisty road past animals scattered at the side of the road. The road was narrow in places, and as we ascended into the cloud, visibility became poorer. It's also called Deer Pass, or Wild Deer Pass.
Oh yeah. You don't want to be meeting another motorhome coming the other way, do you really? Don't like that. I have got it on video, yeah. Yeah, perfect timing, oh what? After a really interesting drive over Deer Pass, we've crossed over the regional border from Cantabria into Castile y Leon. We've arrived in a place called Riano. It's still in the Picos, it's still a bit chilly, it's only 5 degrees, hence the big coat, but it is quite bright, thank goodness. Behind me is the man-made reservoir, and there's a dam there, and this is where the old village of Riano is. To create the reservoir and to create the dam, 6 villages were flooded, and New Riano, where the camper stop is where we're staying. So the top picture here shows you Riano in 1985 with the village in the background, and this underneath is Riano today. The dam and the reservoir were built in 1986, and it's quite a change. And you can still see the name of all the Picos in the back. We've seen the Camino signs all through Spain, even in Portugal, and we even walked part of the Camino when we were in the southwest part of France from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is where the Camino Frances route starts. And as I've said, all these routes end up in Santiago de Compostela, and that's exactly where we're heading for. But today, here in Riano, we've picked up the next sign. It's the very unmistakable yellow arrow, and the yellow, it looks like a clamshell, and that's what it is, and that's what signifies that you're on the Camino de Santiago. One thing that's become really apparent on this journey is that this route, whichever route of the Camino de Santiago you take, there is some fantastic views on it, and you see some great sights. We've seen quite a few of these on our travels, and these are raised grain stores, obviously to protect it from the weather, to protect it from the water, and I guess from animals as well. Scattered along the Camino are things called refuges, or refugios, or they come under different names depending on which country you're in. And this looks like it's one behind us. It's a place where the pilgrims en route can stop, can get a rest, can have water. Sometimes they're in B&Bs, or they're in outbuildings, and you can get food, and sometimes it's just a place to rest your weary legs. So this looks like it could be a refuge on the Camino, so I'm going to go inside, I'm going to have a look. On every bit of this journey, we've always come across a little gem, and that church was definitely one of them. Peaceful, quiet, not opulent at all. It was completely different in the fact that all the sort of church regalia that you normally see was painted on the walls. Yes, there were a couple of offertory boxes and an altar, but all the actual memorials to Christ and to the saints were all painted on the walls, which made it completely different from a lot of the things that we've seen already. Well, we talked about surprises, and I never expected to see a Spanish wrestling arena. I'm sort of used to bullfighting arenas and things like that, but this is the local wrestling arena. Goodness knows how long it's been here, but it's undercover, it's grassed, and there's a seating area. Not quite as big as Old Trafford, but you could probably fit quite a few in here. Do you fancy it taking on all comers then?
I'm ready to accept any challenges there are, but of course there aren't any. So I think that makes me the champion.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the gates are locked as well.
And I'm a granddad.
And you're a granddad, yeah. I'm really delighted to see this. This is on the entrance to one of the roads into Riano, and you can see the cross. It's on I guess it looks like a piece of driftwood. And then further down it, you can see all the clamshells, which signify the Camino de Santiago, nailed onto here. And then there's the street sign that says, "Welcome Pilgrim, Camino de Santiago." How wonderful. Northern Spain just keeps on surprising us round every single corner. I know we keep saying that, but it's just true. And we've walked up here to a Mirador, which is basically a viewpoint, and it's given us some fantastic views over the town of Riano and the surrounding lakes. In the valley you can just see the very picturesque town of Riano, and just down about there you can probably see a Clausen house, and that's the camper stop.
Look out, here she comes, the woman that I love.
So here we are at the Cracker Sparrows. It's a bit nippy around the gills this morning. About 5 degrees overnight, about 8 now, and it's 7 a.m. We're just getting ready to get packed up and get going. It's quite funny actually, because you park up and you get in your bed at, for us it was about 10 last night after the game. I watched the match, a little bit after that maybe, and there's 3 of you and you wake up this morning and there's quite a few more, and that's the way of things. People have different schedules of travel, which is quite interesting. Didn't disturb us, just came and parked at the side of us, and it's quite always quite a bit of a guess as to who's going to be there in the morning when you get up. But it's worked quite well. This is a free air, there's no facilities other than rubbish. It's a free air, but a very secure, safe one. Garda Civil station's just around the corner, and it's a beautiful setting, as I'm sure you'll see from the other photos we've got. So moving on today, we're going down to Sahagún on the next stage of Helen's plan to check out the Camino route. It's the halfway point from the Camino de Francais, the French way, on its way to Santiago de Compostela. So that should be quite interesting. We should drop out of the altitude a bit and it should warm up a little bit shortly, but we're still quite high here, so mountain area, mountain weather, that's how it works.
After a really interesting journey down from Riano, we've arrived at our next stop, which is Sahagún, and the next part of our Camino adventure. This is a recommended stopover on, I think it's on Search for Sights and also Park for Night. And it's really quiet. There's only us here at the minute. And if you can just see in the background, you can see I've done a first spot of a Camino walker walking from left to right, and I'm very excited about being in Sahagún, and I'll explain more why very shortly. So there's no doubt here that you're in the hub of the Camino area. The top of each lamppost has got the clamshell on them. There's a cross here, and on the side is another clamshell. We're in the centre of Sahagún, and the Camino signs are everywhere, as you can imagine. One on the sort of like a milestone here, and on the top somebody's put a stone with probably what looks to be a private prayer underneath it. And then you come round and there's the stone that tells you that Sahagún is the central de Camino, and that's the central part or the midpoint on the Camino Frances. And one of the other typical things of the Camino is the walking stick and the gourd, which is generally filled with water or whatever other sustenance that you like on your journey. There's the clamshell, and a more modern memorial really to it are the bronze footsteps that show the footsteps of the thousands, if not millions, of people who've made this journey. Sahagún's got a long history, not only with the Camino, but these are the ruins of one of the monasteries. It was built in 1099, and it's the monastery of San Factundo and San Primivito. And you've got the modern part of the monastery here, and then as I pan round you can see the old ruins. It just gives a sense of the history of Sahagún. One thing you find all along the Camino are these water points, so pilgrims can fill the water bottles. And at the bottom here, what even catches the water is a clamshell. If you're new to our video, the clamshell, particularly the ones that are painted yellow, are the ones that symbolise the Camino de Santiago and all the routes that lead to Santiago de Compostela. And that's why you'll find them in a lot of our vlogs.
Just two hungry pilgrims taking sustenance.
Yeah, all pilgrims, black coffee, croissant. Doesn't get much better than that, really.
The standard diet of the champion pilgrim.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place, this, isn't it?
It's a great place. I'm loving it. Yeah, it was a real delight to visit it, having sort of heard so much about it and read about it. To put it into pictures in your own mind, what it looks like, is fantastic. So I'm having a great morning. The place where we've had lunch is one of the places on the Camino where you can get your Camino passport stamped. And there's a sign there that tells you. And your Camino passport has to be stamped twice a day to show that you've done the required amount of miles on your route from wherever you've set off to Santiago de Compostela.
I have to confess to loving street art. This is a lovely little place, this. We just walked out of the urban Centrano or Trino, where the modern meets the new. When you're back into the older end, you get these lovely reveals as you come around the corner. The two towers. I'm thinking a Lord of the Rings trilogy right now might be a good thing to watch. After 64 days at home. Away from home, should I say? What say you, H?
No. Sahagún is the halfway point on the Camino de Santiago, or the French route, the Camino Frances. And in the church behind me here is where you get your Camino passport stamped to say you've got to the halfway point. I'm at Sahagún railway station, and this is a really important point for anybody doing the Camino. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the building and explain why. For centuries, pilgrims have arrived at this railway station to do the second half of the Camino, from Sahagún to Santiago de Compostela. It's a bit of a misconception that to get your certificate you have to do the full Camino. You don't. You only need to do 60 miles. And this here, although Sahagún is further than 60 miles away, it's a great place to start the Camino and to make your way all the way to Santiago. I've really enjoyed our morning in Sahagún. But now we have to go on and go on to the next stage of our Camino quest. So I shall say to you exactly what I've said to a lot of pilgrims that I've seen this morning, and it's the traditional greeting to wish somebody on their way and to wish them luck. Buen Camino.